Good morning. Welcome to another Wine Steward video. What do we have before us as our first topic of discussion this week? This is not wine. Well, it is in fact wine. It is fortified wine, and it is also embellished or enhanced or flavored with various botanicals, we could say. This is vermouth. Did you know that you can drink vermouth straight? Many of us know vermouth as simply an additive for our Manhattan or dry martini, but the really good vermouths are drinking straight over the rocks, perhaps, as this one is rendered. My, does that smell good. As you can see, it's neither red nor white, and vermouth does come in those colors, but this is amber, or ambra, as the name of this BCN ambra suggests. This comes not from the United States nor from Italy, but actually Catalonia, Spain, and more specifically, it is made with grapes grown in a very, very famous part of Catalonia, Spain, called Priorat or Priorato, and that is a gorgeous place that's about an hour and a half's rental car drive south and west of Barcelona. You're leaving a very temperate, climated city where there's plenty to see and plenty of people walking around, and you're going to the boonies. Basically, when you go to Priorat, you're going to a very topographically different place as well. You are planets away from Barcelona by the time you've arrived in Priorat. It is a starkly beautiful place where there's hardly such thing as flat land, and therefore hardly such thing as a tractor. Nearly everything has to be farmed by hand there, including the grapes that go into this beautiful BCN, stands for Barcelona, because that's the best known town nearby, city that is, a BCN Ambra Vermut, or vermouth. And man, this is a beauty. As you can see, kind of brown in color, amber, we could say. This is lovely. And this is to say that we can legally offer this to you up at our wine bar. So our little ice machine is put to work to give you a glass, half a glass of ice perhaps, and to wash those cubes with this beautiful vermouth. It's the vermouth that's currently being poured at the wine bar. So yes, you'll see that on the wine bar menu, along with the red and white tasting flights, the wines by the glass, the sparkling wine by the glass, the various eats that we provide as well, cheese and charcuterie platters and olives and almonds and such. But the very nice new, fairly new addition to the menu is vermouth. For those who are willing to try it, you can really get into the vermouth thing the same way you get into wines from all over the world. This is wine, as a matter of fact, just fortified and flavored up a little bit with botanicals. The botanicals happening here, as I stumble over the words, are dried orange peel and clove, and I think there's tomillo in there, thyme, Thyme, also known as tomillo in Spain. And that's very appropriate because thyme frequently grows right next to the garnacha and cariñena vines in Priorat. So it's like all the local ingredients happening here. A little bergamot too. You know what a bergamot is? Love those bergamots. Look it up. Anyway, I digress, but check out the vermouth that is on our wine bar menu from Barcelona, or Priorat, more accurately. That's very tasty. Now let's show you something we cannot show you at the wine bar because we don't pour spirits upstairs per our limited licensing. But I do want to say that recently I was tasting vodka that we sell, I will not name it, and draining that bottle and moving on to this vodka that we've been selling for like ever since we got our spirits license 2 years ago. This is Bellechasse. It comes from France. It's made from hard winter wheat, as grown in northern France. There's a bit of a rumor that the guy who makes Grey Goose is in charge of the making of this as well, but I cannot confirm that. All I will say is that having that other vodka, which will go unnamed, that we sell for several dollars more than this, I moved to this, and all of a sudden I had mouthfeel. I had richness of palate happening in this very inexpensive vodka, the least expensive one on the shelf downstairs. I mean, this is below $20. And now, by the way, you wine club members will get 10% off all of your spirits purchasing here. We made the big decision to start discounting spirits as well as wine. So enjoy a 10% discount on all the whiskey, tequila, rum, gin, and this vodka as well. Bellechasse from northern France. I think if you had it in a blind tasting against some of those grocery store names that cost well over twice as much, I won't name those either, but you know what they are. If you're into vodka, this would vie with it, if not beat it. Beat those other vodkas that are better known. Belchas, I have to keep saying the name, but I want to drill into your head that for under $20, you're getting world-class vodka with texture. See, when you buy up, when you get better vodka, you're not necessarily expecting more flavor. That vodka's actually relatively flavorless. What you're hoping for is a nicer texture. This is in fact sipping vodka, if there ever is one, because of that mouthfeel happening here in Belchas. That's the last time I'm saying it. All right. Let us thank you for your rabid attention to the fact that we are doing a Chateauneuf de Pape event and a South Africa event in close proximity to each other. I think they're only happening 4 or 5 days apart, but believe it or not, both will sell out this week. And we're still more than a week away from those events. They happen in mid-August. You can get the specifics on thewinesteward.com, and you can also sign up that way. There's a link that you will find on thewinesteward.com that takes you straight to Shopify, and you can sign up for the few remaining seats for both Chateauneuf de Pape, which will feature this wine here, the 2022, the new vintage of Domaine du Peygot, several other 22s as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful vintage, and the boat has arrived with many of these 2022 Chateauneuf de Papes that I want to show you that evening. We're going to jump around to other villages in the southern Rhone as well, and maybe pay a visit or two, in wine form, of course, to the northern Rhone too. So this will be a fairly comprehensive experience of the Rhone Valley, north and south, emphasizing the south. But Peygot will be there, other 22s will be there, and I hope you will be there. And you know what's going to happen? I bet this is going to happen. Since we still have a week and a half of sign-up time for this, it's probably going to sell out this week, and I am going to add a bottle. In other words, 2 bottles takes care of 28 of you, 2 bottles of each wine, of course. You need more than 2 bottles as a group. But we will make it 3 bottles of each wine if we sell out soon enough at 28. I will say, okay, now we're going to go to 41 or 42 people, which we can still comfortably seat upstairs. We just have to be a little more creative with that. But based on the enthusiasm, I think based on the fact that kids are back in school and you're going to need a little Chateauneuf de Pape in your house, we are probably going to expand on the enrollment for this event. But I am very, very happily surprised to see that we are well over 20 signups for South Africa as well. That happens on a Sunday, late afternoon, early evening, whatever you want to call it, right after the Chateauneuf event. And very gratifying that our first ever South Africa event is nearly sold out. And maybe we'll have to add seats and bottles to that as well. We shall see. In the meantime, let's segue, this is an appropriate time to do it, to what's happening at the wine bar this weekend. We are doing a white flight, which we had to say white in quotation marks, because whereas the first 4 wines in the flight are white, the last one is a very light pink. It is a dry rosé. We'll get into that in a second. But what's starting off the flight is this rarity that I might have mentioned in a video. I've certainly mentioned it in our newsletter. We are in love with Bandol Rouge. In other words, the red wine from Bandol, France, which is right on the Mediterranean coast and is based on the Mourvedre grape. Mourvedre. Supposed to gasp that last syllable. You don't actually voice it. Mourvedre happens as well in the famous dry rosés from Bandol. Bandol rosé, like Tempier, Domaine Tempier, and such, are based on the Mourvedre grape. Here is the rarer, hardly ever seen in our market, Bandol Blanc. I'm in love with this wine because it says something about the sea. There's a salinity in this wine. There's fruit. There's also an herbaceousness, and there's fun rarity too for the lover of novelty. Don't love novelty without drinking it in the form of darn good wine, but you're getting both novelty and really thought-provoking white wine, priced in the mid-20s, a darn good price for Bandol Blanc, as I've seen, even though we've only carried 3 or 4 of them in our 25 years. This is not based on Mourvedre. This is, in fact, using the Clairette, Ugni Blanc, and Bourblanc grapes. Those 3 are kind of hard to nail down as far as what they do. We often see them, or at least 2 of those at least, in a Chateauneuf de Pape. And they're allowed to be, even those white varieties, in a red Chateauneuf. Did you know that? But we just don't really know what they contribute because there's often only drips and drabs of those. And you never get to try those things straight. I mean, they're always blending grapes. Well, here, at least we've got it down to 3 of those blending grapes. What a beautiful voice of the Mediterranean happens in this Bandol Blanc. So check it out. It is it's in the bins downstairs, available for sale to take home, and also available to taste on our tasting flight, or you can enjoy a whole glass of it. Somebody had a glass yesterday at the wine bar, and then moved on to a full bottle of this. She and her pal, tore into this Bandol Blanc, so I'm glad it was beloved. They also had some of this. This is the aforementioned final wine in that white flight, which is, as you see, dry pink. Or you can't tell it's dry, but you can tell that it's pink, right? This is from the Collino Varese of Italy. Where the hell is that? That is in northern Piemonte, or Piedmont, Italy. So we are in the area of Barbaresco and Barolo, but north of there, in that same general region of Piedmont, but way up north from those 2 more famous subregions of Piemonte. Colline Novarese also grows Nebbiolo. Sometimes up there they call the grape Spana. You know, grapes change names frequently based on region, but here they're helping us by identifying this with the more familiar name of Nebbiolo. It's the first Nebbiolo Rosé that we've carried in a very long time. It's a beauty. It's silky. It is, like I said, dry. It's ethereal. Gotta have it. It's a lovely wine that is, once again, available for sale downstairs. It's in the cooler downstairs as well, so you can take a cold bottle home, or come on upstairs, have a glass of it, or enjoy it as part of that refreshing white flight. White flight. All right, finally, well, kind of finally. I mentioned that Châteauneuf-du-Pape event, and the fact that it's going to be using wines from near Châteauneuf-du-Pape, which is a nice thing because sometimes you save a little bit of money, get something similar to Châteauneuf-du-Pape by just driving a few miles from that particular village to the other villages or village of the southern Rhone. And perhaps we better know the names Gigonnas and Vaqueras, but you also have Beaune de Venise, and you have Rasteau and Sablé, and you also have this one that we don't often carry, but the name of the village is boldly proclaimed right there. It is Queyranne. Queyranne, don't confuse that with the grape Carignan, all right? This is a village, this is a location, a wine place called Queyranne. So there's a village with vines surrounding it. All of the vines growing around that village can be called Queyranne. And here is, as you would anticipate, just like Châteauneuf-du-Papes generally are, a blend of Grenache, first and foremost, and then S&M, or M&S. I can't remember which one comes first as far as amounts, but this is, in fact, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, and, confusingly, 10% Carignan. Carignan from Queyranne. This is also interesting, and will be that evening, because whereas, as I said before, we're going to be pouring mostly 2022 vintage and celebrating a return to a fruit-forward year. 2020 was a nice fruit-forward year, albeit a slim style of Rhone wine. 21 was a roller coaster ride. It really depended on how the weather treated the producer in particular areas. And you could drive a few miles and find a producer who had very good luck in 21, and then drive a couple more and find a Rhone wine that is very, very, so, in other words, we had to taste 2021s very carefully, whereas we could throw darts at, let's say, 2016s, 2019s, and now 2022s are all like uniformly delicious, albeit different from each other, which is what we want, but it's what I'm saying is it's a consistently good year, 2022. Here's a 21, and I want us to celebrate difference that evening, not just by going to a slightly different place. This is probably a 15 minutes drive from Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but also celebrate difference in the form of what a successful 2021 can do. It is still not as fruit forward necessarily as the 22s will have, and that's cool. This is a wine that I call more savory. It's got more mysterious qualities of, let's say, Asian flavors, Asian food flavors. There's something about nori happening in this wine. We'll see if that happens again as we taste it among the more fruit forward 22s, but I really, really like this wine. I think the best way to know it is perhaps not that evening where it's competing with more fruit-forward wines, but to have a whole glass of it at our wine bar this weekend. Yes, it is part of our red wine flight. which is all consists entirely of south of France reds, some from the Rhone, some from the Languedoc. This happens somewhere in the middle of that flight and will all of a sudden strike you as a wine that's not as fruit forward, as I said, but more mysteriously savory, let's say. And I would say be compelled enough to finish up that flight and then come back to this in glass form. Enjoy an entire glass of this and you will fully know it. And I think you will be entranced. You will like this the same way I do. All right, so finally, after saying that this is happening in the event, but also on the wine bar menu, I want to just set that aside, leave it up there to have you continue to salivate and tell you about these guys. I mentioned them a few months ago, but yes, we do sell some specialty food items that often come from another country, including Italy, Spain, France, and so on. These cookies, you would think, based on the size of the package, same size as my head almost, they look kind of pricey, right? They're actually extremely affordable and they're delicious. And they are not ponderous in weight. They are delicate wafer cookies from Italy, and they come in 4 flavors. I think that's the cocoa. What do we have here? Hazelnuts. Hazelnut, you know, the Italians are big on hazelnut. I love them too. This is the vanilla. And finally, my favorite, something I would not have said as a child, the lemon. Delicate lemon flavors happening in these cookies. You know, it's kind of funny how our palates adjust. Sometimes we become more open-minded with age. Some people say the taste buds just fry enough so that you can handle lemon as an adult when, as a kid, it was way too tangy. But I think it's because I've opened my mind. I apply that sense of open-minded wisdom to the way I approach wine as well. The way a wine that I maybe didn't like 5 or 10 years ago, a wine style, that people said, boy, you really got to get into those. And I was saying, I'm not into those. And then later on, more open-mindedly, the bell rings. I have that moments when I've had that great wine in the right environment. And then all of a sudden I'm into that category too. And my horizons have therefore been broadened. And that's the funnest thing to see from a wine lover, especially why, you know, we host if people will listen and be guided around downstairs by myself or other wine stewards, and you open-mindedly grab something you've never heard of before based on our advice and our description, your mind can be blown, or it will at least be, your open mind will be enhanced. You will have, I'm using that word again, you will have thereby a longer list of wines that you like. Well, here are cookies that I like. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening, watching, participating. Thank you so much for getting us through the summer doldrums. Now that the kids are getting back into school, I'm sure business will pick up because it's been quiet, and I've been hearing that from all of my friends who own other wine shops. So thanks at least for keeping us afloat, and now let's kick ass in the 4th quarter, shall we? Thank you. Bye-bye.